Hello and welcome to our next video. In this video, we're going to show you how to get Python 3 installed on a Linux-based computer. In particular, the distribution of Linux I'm using is Kali Linux. I'll be using Linux for the whole scope of this course to do all of our coding, but everything that we're doing here in Linux should work fine if you followed the instructions for the Windows installation or if you choose to use the online compiler. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up a terminal here. I'm using a terminal app called Tilix. It's just nice because it allows me to have multiple terminal sessions open. And we're going to say that when you install Linux, Python is installed by default. So if I just type Python here in the terminal, you can see I'm running Python 2.7. And if I come over here in my other terminal window, if I type in Python 3, I'm running Python 3.7. And so we're going to be coding everything in Python 3. Python 2 was a previous version that has some subtle differences. So I'm going to close that window. So we want to make sure that everything we're using is Python 3. I'm going to just get out of Python 3 for a second. But because we don't want to actually code, for instance, if I'm in here, I could type in print, hello world. And I could type my code right in here and it'll do, I could say x equals 4, print x plus 3, and it'll print 7, etc. But we don't want to do that. We want to actually type our code in a compiler where we can edit it, save it, and work with it. And so we are going to use idle. And so in order to install software in Linux, let's open this up here. Let me clear the screen. I can use the command apt. Before we actually install this, let's just search. So we'll do apt search or apt search idle. And it will reference the repositories where all this stuff is stored. And if we scroll through here, I see idle. Idle for Python, IDE for Python using tkinter, the default version. And so you can see here for me this is installed. But this is the package that we would install to have access to our compiler idle that we're going to use, our IDE or Integrated Development Environment. So to install that, I would just type apt-get install idle. And so if I click enter, it's telling me idle is already the newest version, and so we don't have to install it. You're going to get prompted to install it, and so then you can click yes and go through the install. And when you do that, you should have access to the idle software. So if you look at your applications menu, somewhere on here it should have a programming setting, and we have idle. And so we can open up our idle IDE, Integrated Development Environment, and go through and do our code. So when we first open up the window, we have a shell prompt where I can do things like just type in commands. So print hello world, and it will print it. But if I come to file, new file, it's going to give me a new file where I can actually go through and type in my code and save this. When we run this code, so print, we'll just say print hello world. If I go to run this, I can run it from up here, or I can click F5 to run this. I'll be prompted to save the file first, so why don't I just save this on my desktop, and I'll save this as test.py. And if I click save, it's going to run that in a terminal window. It opens it up and it prints hello world there, and I still have this here. A few things that we can change. If I go to options and configure idle, I'm running it as the dark theme, so the built-in theme. There's classic, dark, and new. I'm choosing the dark theme. If you look here, I've changed the font under the font tab. I've changed the font size to 16 for better reading. And then there is one more thing that I did. Where is it? I added number lines on our prompt. If right here under options, if you come to there's hide line numbers and show line numbers. I'm showing the line numbers. That makes it a lot easier for debugging purposes. And so from in here, we can run everything that we need to do. We can import any libraries of code. However, there is one small library of code that we have to actually make sure that we import. I won't save that. There is one small library that we have to make sure that we add to our Python installation, and so we can add libraries or packages of code using the pip command. So if I just type in pip, I get a lot of information here in my terminal. When we have both Python 2 and Python 3 installed, pip will install anything for Python 2, so we want to make sure we use pip, not pop, pip 3. So this is a default installer for Python packages. And so if you look here, I have a list of things, commands that I can run. So pip3, the command, and then options. So let's start by running the list command to just see what installed packages I have on my computer for Python 3. I'll max this. And so we can see I have a variety of packages installed. I have lots of them. Wow, geez. I guess I must have been messing around. One of the ones that we're going to be using that's not default installed here, I believe, is the matplotlib library. It's going to allow us to use to make some graphs, to graph data in Python. So we want to make sure that we install this. So if I clear the screen and I type pip3 again, let's see, to install a package, we have the command install packages, and then we just have to give the package name. So if I type pip3 install matplotlib and click enter, it should tell me, see, I've already got the requirement satisfied. I have it. You need to go through and install that in order for you to do some of the work that we're going to be doing in our functions unit. Once that's installed, to verify that it is installed, if we open up idle and we go to either the shell prompt or just an actual document that we're saving, if we type import matplotlib, we should go ahead and that should work without an error. So that's wonderful, right? If I try to import something that I don't have, I don't know, it says no module name boskd is found. So that means that we are finding the matplotlib that we just installed, and we are all set to begin learning some computer science with Python, which is what we are going to do in our next video. So I look forward to seeing you then, and until then, have a great day.